questions here. Let's welcome Tirrel. Tirrel, welcome. Stony Brook, beautiful, going to be hot day, 90 degrees tomorrow. Tirrel, I asked you to finish key concepts in new media. One of the major questions I'm going to ask you for this quick quiz is why those groupings? Why? Let me flip on the actual reference I'm referring you guys to. This one. Network, information, interface, interactivity, archive, and simulation. I thought this was fairly innovative for a media study. Even for I'm down and I love the philosophy of information and Turing and how they decoded the U-boat code and how that led to kind of the way we think about computers and now the way we even relate to each other. Some people pecking away at their machines thinking they can multitask, Catherine, and other people think that focus is where that. Tirrel, why the groupings?
I feel the groupings are basically how things have evolved over time. When you initially have...
But they're all present right now. That was the point of the book. When we see media, you see Donald Duck on a cartoon, or you see your personal Facebook site, according to these two authors, we see this.
Yeah. He said in the book how he would talk about how media use would apply back when the philosophers came up with their ideas, and then how it applies now, like when he was talking about the archives and how it's like
Derrida and archive fever.
Yeah, how it's no longer because of the individualization of archives. Like
that was one of my questions.
No longer really pertain because now anyone can have the USB drive. You know, it's not just.
Oh, Derrida was talking about email, and he thought, why? Derrida was one of the better known deconstructivist philosophers. I'm sort of half and half with Derrida as like a really cogent mind. But he said Derrida, even before he died, focused on email rather than the internet per se. And I want to, Tirrel, does the internet alter our sense of collective identity?
Oh, it can force our collective identity because we have so much interactivity with other people that we become who we are on the internet. Of course, when you're speaking on the internet, you're a different person, but you're usually getting information and sending out information through the internet, so that's how you become collective.
But by collective identity, I mean like marching people off to war. I mean like Pearl Harbor. Oh my God, those dirty Japs bombed Pearl Harbor. Well, if we didn't see, we're reading the news or behind the scenes, you would have known our navies cut the Japanese off from their oil supply in Indonesia. And basically, Japan was just playing the European game of imperialism, right? They became rivals to the fading Euro empires, namely England and France, still trying to maintain a hold in Asia where they wanted all of Asia decolonized. That was part of the Atlantic Charter. With our individual, Tirrel, I guess the question I'm asking is would you be skeptical of a Pearl Harbor today?
If it was the same scenario, it's pretty much unavoidable. Because
what's unavoidable?
If
your skepticism or the fact that that led to war?
The fact that, the severity of the war. Well, it wasn't really severe for us, but the severity of the war in general was unavoidable.
Well, it was very severe for us. It altered our face of our society. There was rations here. About 365,000 men died.
By comparison, though, it wasn't that much.
To Russia, yeah. I mean, Russia, 20 million people died. I mean, it was, and so Jay, what? Yeah, let's get that back. I mean, and gang, 12 years ago, 911 was Pearl Harbor, right? Remy, what was the difference? Pearl Harbor, 911. The internet barely is 5 years old, right? 6 years old. from Netscape, and this comes along. Whatever, regardless, is underneath there in terms of conspiracies or truth. What's the difference between? And many people think that Roosevelt baited the Japanese in. That there were a bunch of obsolete battleships there. He said, "Bring them on in. I need." This big question we're asking here is the one of does the internet now alter our sense of collective identity? What was changed between Pearl Harbor as collective identity and 9/11? Remy.
I think 9/11 and the war in Iraq is more closely related to Vietnam than Pearl Harbor. I couldn't even compare it to Pearl Harbor.
Well, they pulled another thing there. It's like one of our warships thought a torpedo sped right by it from a North Vietnamese submarine. There's all this slight. Remember what was in Iraq? It was weapons of mass destruction. You know, there's always some sleight of hand. Catherine, are we in, because we lack this collective identity, yeah, let's go get them, it's us against them, let's go get them, let's go whip the hell out of them, and so forth. Are we lacking that now in the internet or not?
I guess we are in a way. Well, things have also changed, though. People have changed the way they perceive things, the way they think, their thought process.
What came first, chicken or eggs, Jay? Is it the change in media who did that, or are we naturally more a diverse society, less likely, because the beginning of the war with Japan was very racist. It was built on racist predications. You know, if you see Disney films from that era, you'll be shocked. Like, really shocked. So what's is this a utopia? Oh no, I'm thinking for myself on this, man. You can't get me in behind this collective identity. I mean, it's like sharing something with your tribe, right? Does the internet corrode that?
Well, maybe it makes a lot more tribes, as you put it. It makes it easier for there to be lots of groups of smaller groups of people who have similar interests and ideas and perspectives on life, and they can have their common meeting space online, even if they're spread all the way across the world.
If someone flames you on Facebook, are you likely just to remove them? Like, oh, I think you're da 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 da, and you go like, oops, down. Big lever comes and unfriends them, right?
Yeah.
So, anyone had that happen?
No.
Kind of like a disgruntled ex or something? Tirrel, you're silent on this one. Oh, tell us a little anecdote, Minju.
He just like put me a blast on Facebook, like blah blah blah. But he wrote all over my wall. He was like commenting on every single picture of mine, saying.
An ex did.
Yeah, so I just removed him and I blocked him, and I never heard from him ever again.
You still haven't heard from him.
Why would I talk to him?
That's pretty mean. So we have new mean. We might not have big Pearl Harbors and everyone collectively going off, but little things happen to us. Like I got fished and gutted on my email like 3 or 4 months ago. It felt like, whoa! I thought we were trying to get rid of bullies in this world. Why would that happen? Yeah, they were after money. So, you know, it was more than cyber. I was robbed, you know, or at least they tried to rob me. So what's bracing and different about this century in terms of media, David?
I don't know. I guess, like I said before, just the individuality. I don't remember who exactly said it, but I feel like I've heard this so many times that like nothing unites people like a common like enemy.
That was one of the point of this book. Is like what?
Well, I think like the internet makes it kind of just have tons of enemies.
So look, your
It just
network
divides
might
it
be a
into-
bunch.
yeah.
Yeah, your network probably is not some of your friends, your parents' constipated friends or whatever. Or Lord knows if your mother gets a little trigger happy on Facebook, you say, "Mom," you know. 2, information is that pretty much developed out of like World War II when they were trying to break the Nazi subcode. You got emitter, message receiver, and you have to analyze just what is going on in there. Interface and interactivity we talked about last week is being what are the interfaces? Like now I have this fob or this 3D printer as an interface. I wanted to use it. I cold called this famous company. They said, sure, we'd like to see you work it out. And it did the job. Now it started more gears turning in my head in terms of what new products or services or what money I could make out of this and research and whatever. And the last thing, Tyrell, archive and simulation. What's happening with robot wars? Drones.
Oh, well, it's the same thing that's been happening. People are trying to build better, faster, bigger than whoever else they're competing with.
But many people, Regina, say this is like the atomic bomb, using the atomic bomb. This isn't fair. Part of a culture understanding, like many cultures around. I was studying Native American war. You know, it was very precise. You know, the brave who finally killed they held war parties just to steal horses, sometimes steal women. They took no men as prisoners, meaning they killed all the men. Pretty much like in the West, like everywhere. But it was much more serious if you didn't have these drones flying overhead by some Doritos-eating 18-year-old from some Mission Central in Arizona. Right? Remy, what can of worms? Is this fair or unfair? We lost sense of the empathy of war?
Yeah, everything is like almost computer based. Where, like you're just saying, like a room full of guys can sit and hit a button and explode a country.
And make mistakes. You go like, oh, I see a group of 6 middle-aged guys standing there. Let's just nuke them.
Yeah.
Does it check with your boss? Does that look suspicious on the satellite? Yeah.
It's kind of overkill to most of the world.
Is there, Catherine? Is there a blowback from this? They use the word blowback. It's like if we do this, then this happens. It makes sense. Makes total sense. We don't want to expend our lives of our American men doing this, so we use robots. Is there a blowback from this?
I mean, you never know. We've seen in movies where they turn on you. So.
Not they, but the enemy goes like totally unfair. How would you guys? And they say it's totally possible.
They already have robots on battlefield.
What if on battlefield? What if the enemy said, "Okay, that's enough. Grab some money from Saudi Arabia, makes a fleet of like 2,000 robots this side, and just sends them in a swarm toward New York." What do we do then? It's already possible now, today.
Then we'll just
Yeah,
have
they already use
hyper-real versus hyper-real. This is robots versus robots.
Yeah.
But real people,
Until-
real people dying on the ground. What if we look out this window and there's robots very precisely flying up the streets and avenues here, shooting a missile our way, you know, using heat seekers to find there's a group of 8 or 10 people here, take out that room, whatever. My point is the media, the final thing between archive and simulation, and kind of this Faustian thing. Once it's done, like once you drop the atomic bomb, it's like, oh my God, it's proliferated. Once you say, oh, we don't want to lose any men, so we'll fight with robots, you die on the ground in your villages, and one day they go, nah. Is this, Minju, is this up the stakes? Is this, personally, I can't see this ex-boyfriend doing this level of vandalism to you 5 years ago, right? How many friends do you have?
On Facebook?
Yeah. How many?
1,200 something.
And conceivably, everyone saw the ranting of this ex-boyfriend.
Yeah, basically.
How embarrassed did you feel?
Wanted to kill him.
This is the new world, right, Tyrell?
Yeah.
The stakes are massively high. Is this, and this is the last question here, is that post-human? Remember that quote at the end of the, Jay, is that, to be that level of embarrassed, Minju is in this new Facebook era, look out the window and see robot drones, 2,000 of them. Instead of 2 planes, there are 2,000 robots as big as this, and it can happen tomorrow. It's not like this is a future thing. They could just say, oh, we need a bit of Saudi money. Let's get it done. They're made, well, launch. Is this mean we're post-human? We lack empathy. The dire effects seem amplified because of media. It's just your embarrassment seem amplified, right? It's like, holy smokes, it feels like a public stoning, right?
Yeah.
Basically, right? Remy.
I feel like it is post-human, this level of interaction and the emotional connection you have with like Facebook on your computer. I feel like that goes to a post-human era.
There was a photograph that got great criticism during 9/11, but I was right there. It was shot from the Brooklyn Promenade. Some photographers shot a group of like 6 or 7 people. It was a beautiful day. I remember that day, mildly talking to each other while the buildings are burning in the background. I walked right by that. That's pretty much the whole scene on the promenade. People were sitting, chatting about what was going on, but, and looking out, and there's smoking buildings up like this, and that photograph got criticized. Jay, why?
Because it flies in the face of what we like to think of as humanity and human empathy.
It's like, oh my God, we're being attacked. There should be crying people on the promenade. I saw plenty of crying people that day. But that one photograph was also a chunk of... Okay, so what if we're sitting here, Regina, I'm conducting my class, and the day arrives. 2,000 flying drones attack New York. Wouldn't part of you go like, oh, this is pretty cool? Right, Remy?
Yeah.
We're just sitting here, and he goes, oh, look, there's another one. You go, oh, there's one going, oh, it hit that group of people. Oh, they're dead. Oh, my God. Wait a minute.
I'm a very dramatic person, so I'll probably start crying.
Remy, what would you tiny bit of, at least you boys would say,
I think it's cool until,
a missile flies through this room, right? And we're all incinerated
if
or
nobody
whatever.
gets hurt, then that's a different story.
Yeah.
But people got hurt that day, but for the most part that day, people's jaws were dropped open. They're like, I can't believe with box cutters, they just flew 2 planes into these buildings.
Well, what about people who are used to this on a daily basis, like overseas?
But that's the post-human. No, and that was the post-human thing about World War II. When they started this, you don't drop bombs on civilians. And when they did it in Coventry, the English said in Dresden, or when they started doing it regularly, it went like, oops.
Yeah.
It's like, is it post-human, David, to be termed a combatant or non-combatant?
I don't think so.
We're sitting here, and by the time the end of the class, the drones are flying up the streets, randomly shooting at people, and say, or I felt that day. That day said, I'm not a non-combatant.
Yeah, I don't think that's post-human. I think that's the normal progression of war. And I think it's perfectly... I mean, I don't know, I wrote like a blog post on this thing. I don't know if you know what Stuxnet is.
Stuxnet?
Yeah, it's like a virus, not really like a virus, it's what it was made during the Bush administration, and it was basically after Iraq, because, we didn't find any missiles of weapons of mass destruction. The next thought was, oh, Iran probably has them. We couldn't just announce to the public, oh, now we're going to invade Iran and look from there.
They had to make
they made this virus type thing to deploy there, and Obama has been using it too now, and it just came to light that we've been using this thing to spy on basically our enemies. We've been working with, I think, France with it.
Or who we think is our next enemy.
Yeah.
Until one day we, the public, just having our behind the lines, see drones flying around here.
But basically, this is something that is very, all it takes is someone who's smart enough to create a virus like this. And with something like this, if it gets into our database, can shut down. It's it's bigger than Y2K. Y2K was way out of proportion, but this is something that could actually.
Oh, I
shut
felt
down.
that when I got fished. When Ivan fished me, I was like, oh, there goes part of my business.
When we're messing with stuff of this magnitude, we have to expect it to come back on us.
Blowback.
And if terrorists were to do this to us,
I'm going
they
to cut
could
out
shut
at 20.
down